Hey, eighth graders, how you doing? This is Mr. Garnett Cook. As you can see, I'm trying out the video feature on screencast, so we'll see how it goes. Um, I'm doing a screencast right now because we're going to be learning a lot this week and next week about the economies of Germany and the United States in the 20s and 30s, and more specifically, the collapse of the economies of Germany and the United States in the 20s and 30s, especially when we lead up to the Great Depression. Now, there's a lot of really complex history and also economics in that story that we're not going to get into on a deep level. But I wanted to do a screencast today to explore one economics concept or really question that hopefully will give you some insight into the dynamics of a nation's economy and how that can contribute to an economic collapse. We'll see how we do with that. The question I want to explore with you is why does money, specifically in this context, our money, the US dollar, why does it have value? Why does our money have value? That's the question that I want to explore with you right now. And I want to begin by looking at a scenario so you can start to get an understanding of what I'm talking about. I want you to imagine that you're standing in line at a local pizza place and you realize that you're $1 short on the purchase of a slice. And a friend you're with offers to give you $1 so that you will be able to buy a slice of pizza. The question I have, and you can see it in italics, is would you accept the money? Very straightforward question. Now, you could say, well, it depends on my friend, it depends on a lot of factors, but just if you're thinking about it purely from the standpoint of, do you want that slice of pizza? Would you accept the money? And my guess is most of you in that circumstance, assuming you like pizza, would say yes, you would take the dollar. Now, if we were in class and you answered that way, I would follow up with the question, why would you take that dollar? Now, most of you would say, because I want the pizza. And I would follow up with the question, well, then why is it you think the dollar or dollars would get you the slice? Let's see if you can get at what I'm talking about. Let's start by actually looking at a dollar. So this is a $1 bill, all right? Now, you've all seen a dollar before, and there's writing on it, there's numbers on it, and there's some strange symbols and things on it. But the thing that I want to point out to you first about the dollar is what it's printed on. And what it's printed on is paper, all right? A dollar bill, or a $5 bill, or a $10 bill, or a $100 bill, those bills are in and of themselves worthless. They're worth nothing. They're paper. All right. So the question is, why then do they have value? If the paper that it's printed on is worthless, why is it that it's valuable enough where we want it and people who we want to give it to in exchange for what we want are willing to take it? That's the question that I want to try to answer. Okay. And before we sort of move on, I want to start to answer that question by looking at one part of the dollar. All right, and the part of the dollar I want you to look at here is in the top left-hand corner. There's some interesting writing here, right below where it says the United States of America. There's this phrase. It says, "This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private." That's significant because this is the beginning of the answer why it has value. That message there is a message from the United States government to us. And what that message basically says in plain English is we, the United States, support this dollar bill as something to be used for purchasing what you want. We back it up. We approve it. We, the government, support this, back it. It has our seal of approval. So it's the United States government lending its support and its weight to this piece of paper. That is one thing that gives it value. But it still is puzzling because that it's basically still a worthless piece of paper, okay? The fact that the government backs it up shouldn't alone mean all of a sudden it's worth exactly what it says it's worth. So I want to get a little bit deeper into this. If we were to go back in time, we used to have a very different system of money. We used to have paper money that was on what was known as the gold standard. Now, we're not going to get too deep into the history of the gold standard now. A couple of simple points to make, though. It used to be in this country that how much paper money there was in an economy was backed up by gold. And you only printed money whose value was consistent with how much gold that country had in its system, okay? And that was true for a lot of different countries. You also used to be able to go to a bank with paper money and exchange it for gold. That was important because that's what gave the paper money its value. It was an acknowledgement that the paper itself was worthless. What gave it its value was that you could exchange it for something that had real value to people. Gold was a precious commodity. An individual dollar bill was worth a certain amount of gold. You could exchange it. That's what gave the paper money its value. Well, in 1971, the United States went off the gold standard. What that meant was you could no longer go to a bank and exchange paper money for gold. So the paper money was forever separated from the gold that gave it its value. So what did that mean for paper money? If paper money is no longer backed up by gold, which would give it its value, well, then what gives it its value? What is the thing that gives paper money its worth? Well, the short answer is nothing. Nothing at all. The longer answer is, well, let's figure that out right now. Let's go back to our scenario though first, right? So going back to the pizza scenario, all right? You said you would take the dollar bill to buy the slice. Why is that? Well, because you think it would give you enough money to buy your pizza, all right? You're short on the money. You're taking the extra money because that's what you need to get the slice. But the reason you're willing to do that is because you know that the money you are taking has value. But why do you know that? All right. Now, you've all been around long enough to know, and it's almost become instinctive. We don't even really stop to think about why it is that this paper money that we're often carrying around has value. We just assume it has value. We know it has value, but why? The answer to that question is because the person you are purchasing from also thinks it has value. You give somebody at the pizza place money, they'll give you a slice of pizza. The reason they'll do that is because they think that money has value too. It's a very important, and I would argue, really important point in understanding how our system of money works. It is important to know that the money's value is relative to the cost of the item you are purchasing. All right, let me explain what I mean by that. If you go to a pizza place and the pizza place, at the pizza place, a slice of pizza is worth $2. Costs $2 to buy a slice of pizza. What that means in economics terms is that each individual dollar, a $1 bill, is worth half the cost of a slice of pizza. All right. Now, if you have $2 in your pocket, you have enough money to purchase that slice, which means that you are happy, right? But let's say the pizza place raises the price of a slice of pizza from $2 to $3. Something significant has changed. What has changed in that scenario is that the value of a dollar has gone down in relationship to a slice of pizza. Before, $1 was worth half the cost of a slice of pizza. Now $1 is worth 1/3 the cost of a slice of pizza. The value of the individual dollar has gone down in relationship to that slice. Why? Because it now requires more dollars to buy a slice of pizza. That's why in that situation, you need to turn to your friend and ask them for $1. You no longer have enough. This same thing plays out in all sorts of different situations. The price of gas rises and falls. The price of gas goes up. It costs me more dollars to fill my tank. Price of gas goes down. It requires less money to fill my tank. Same thing holds true for almost any good or service you want to purchase. How valuable your money is exists to some degree in relationship to how much it costs to buy the things you want. It's a very important economics concept to understand. So why does money have value? We're not backed by gold anymore. So what is it? Well, I already told you one. It's because the government tells us it has value. All right? It has value because our government backs it up. Okay? As long as we have faith in our government, we'll have faith in the system of money, I suppose. It also has value because we think it has value. All right? That's it. We believe it has value. We think it has value. The people we want to buy stuff from think it has value. It all goes round and round. That's how our system works, by a collective sense that money has value. And the key word here that I have in boldface is the word faith. Our system of money today exists to a large degree because we collectively have faith in it. We believe it has value. That's a really important, and I would argue, geez, potentially dangerous thing depending on the situation. I used to joke with students, if you go to the pizza place for a slice of pizza and you hand them $3 and they won't take that money anymore, that's when you know that our economy is on the verge of collapse, okay? Because people are losing faith in the money. It's a very important point. Now, all this is a little bit more complicated. There are laws around supply and demand that we can get into here. How much of a supply of something there is, how much of a supply of money there is that could impact how valuable things we want to buy are, that impact how valuable our money is. We're not going to get too much into that right now. That's a little bit more than I have time for. But it's interesting economics. There are lots of videos online you could watch to learn about sort of the money and the supply and demand and things like that if you're interested. I want to leave you with a couple of final thoughts. All right. Final thought number one, the value of our money today is based to some degree on our perception of its value. All right. We believe it has value, therefore it has value. That is how our system of money operates, on our perception of the value of that money. How and why we spend money the way we do is driven by a combination of demand and desire. All right. We demand things, we desire things. That drives our spending. In fact, demand is nothing more than desire matched with the ability to pay. We want a slice of pizza. We have the money to buy the pizza. Demand, okay? Now, the dangerous thing sometimes in our economy is when people actually don't have the ability to pay, but they buy anyway, okay? That can be potentially very bad for an economy. And that's something actually that goes a long way toward explaining what happens in the 20s and 30s. That's something I'll come back to a little bit more next week. The last thing I want to say is how and why we spend money is based to a large degree on emotions, on feelings. Demand, desire, want. These are emotional impulses. These are not things that are based in necessarily rational, logical thought. We desire things, we go out and buy them. An economy should run that way. We want there to be demand and desire for things because that's what keeps us spending money. It's what keeps the wheels of our economy turning around. There are times, however, when that can become an unhealthy thing for an economy. Case in point, the 1920s in the United States. That's something we will come back to a little bit more next week as we explore what happened in the 20s that led to the Great Depression in the 1930s. That's all for now, 8th grade. Have a good day.